I'm Mike Clark with Paul Reed Smith Guitars, and I'm here with Steve and the guys at Wildwood Guitars, and want to talk to you about PRS amplifiers. Tell you a little bit about the history. I'm playing through the new PRS 2-channel H amplifier, and we just did a video on it, but I'd kind of like to talk to you about how we've gotten into the amplifier business, what our philosophy is, what we're trying to do, and what we're trying to offer to the customer. Like Paul Reed Smith Guitars, attention to detail is really important to us as a company. Paul's goal with the guitars was to be able to build a guitar that you could buy, take out of the case, change the strings if you needed to, but take it to a gig and play it, and feel very comfortable doing so. Our amplifiers are the same way. We started out with 3 amplifiers, the original Sewell, the Dallas, and the Blue Sierra. These amps were all designed by Doug Sewell, who originated from Texas and was our amp designer. And in Texas, Doug built a lot of different amplifiers for country players, rock players, really every genre. I think one of his fortes was Texas country guys, tellies, things like that. And he created quite a reputation. Doug lived about 10 minutes from me, and when I started, I'd quit playing guitar for about 15 years, and when I started back playing, everybody told me I needed to go to Doug. So I met Doug, and it was a very interesting experience. I had known what I liked in an amplifier. I knew what kind of tubes I wanted. And we sat down, and he had 3 or 4 different platforms, and we played through them. And then the interesting stuff started, and it started, I would say, well, I like this, and I don't like that. He would plug me into a cabinet. We'd decide what cabinet I liked, and then he would take the amp, run to the garage for a minute, bring it back, and I'd play through it, and they were magical. I took the amp out, and it's quite honestly scared me to death, because what I realized was that that amp was recreating things that I didn't hear in other amps, and I'd gotten used to not hearing them. So initially, it was very startling to me, and I went back to my other amps, and at that point, I realized I missed what I was getting out of these amplifiers. And I think that's one of the reasons that people like Warren Haynes and Derek Trucks and David Grissom and Davey Knowles are using the amplifiers. They can really, watching David Grissom sit down with an amplifier and get a tone out of it and play is really incredible. The subtleties that he's looking for, really, it's pretty amazing to watch him, and he knows exactly what he wants, and he knows exactly how to get it. Well, for the rest of us, it could be a shock. So what we want to be able to do is sit down and just be able to get what we want out of it and sound better and make us a better player. We want instant gratification, but we also want to be able to find out things about the amplifier as time goes on. We want to see that we get more out of it and that we're able to expand our horizons just as you do with the guitar. So that, you know, it creates new opportunities for us to go off into different areas and explore different styles of music or different styles of playing or anything such as that. Well, when we first started, we were very traditional in that we were building single channel amps. We didn't want to do anything to interfere with the integrity of those amplifiers. We didn't want to do effects loops. We didn't want to do anything like that, because anything in that chain affects the overall tone and the purity of the amplifier. And while that's true, within time we found that, well, that's great for a certain level of player, but it's not what everybody wants. And there's a lot of great amplifiers. I've been here at Wildwood today, and as a player and a musician and consumer, there's all kinds of great amplifiers and great builders. So we really have to set ourselves apart. And where I think we're doing that is that in a lot of modern amplifiers, you'll notice that it's very heavily weighted towards the preamp section of the amplifier. In our single channel amplifiers, like the Sweet 16 and the 30, those amplifiers are very output based. So you want to pick the wattage. If you don't play loud, you want to go with a 16 or a 30 and crank the master volume all the way up. And then you're going to see that you're going to get the broadest range of tones. Amplifiers have a feel. I know we've all plugged into an amplifier and thought, wow, it's like restrictive. I'm not able, it's not wide open. It's not giving me that flexibility. It's like restricting my playing. So the output section on the 16 and the 30 really help you there. You can also, it's a great platform for plugging pedals in, and our amplifiers, all of them, even the 2 channels, are very pedal friendly. Warren Haynes, for instance, is using 3 different amplifiers. He uses the HXDA, or the 25th anniversary. That's a variation of 2 amplifiers there. He uses that with the Allman Brothers. With Government Mule, he uses a Super Dallas. And just recently, he's discovered the 16s and the 30s, and he's now using 2 30s out on the road. And the 30 is really a neat amplifier. EL84 power tubes, cathode biased amplifier, single channel, real straight ahead, 12-inch Guitar Warehouse speaker that's a really nice sounding speaker. He's using 2 of them, and he was just blown away by the tone of it. And he is using it out on the road and has used it in a lot of different applications. But his needs are different for his solo project than they were for Government Mule. He doesn't need quite as much stage volume, and those work well for him. So our intent is to build amplifiers that meet everybody's needs. You know, the guy that's looking for a single channel amplifier, the 2-channel amplifier is not really his world. But people that are using 2-channel amplifiers have to have the features that we've offered on this amplifier. And what we would like to get across is that we offer all different kinds of amplifiers. When we started out, we bought a lot of old amplifiers, a lot of old English amplifiers, some Holy Grail amplifiers, and we took them apart, and we noticed that from the same year, those amplifiers were changing from time. Every amp had a little bit different features on, a little bit different specs on the inside. They were changing, constantly trying to make it better. And we're doing the same thing. We have fine-tuned it with the amplifiers that we have now. If you're a single channel amp guy and you like to use pedals, try out our 16 and 30. 2-channel amps, we have the 2-channel C and the 2-channel H. Then we have our hand-wired. All these amps are handmade in Stevensville, Maryland, and they're all essentially hand-wired. Where these will use a very thick PC board, the higher-end hand-wired series uses a very thick tag board, not unlike vintage English amplifiers. We have a really neat amp now called the HXDA, and we got a couple of Holy Grail amplifiers. I will just say they were very influential in modern music. In the 70s, some very notable players used these amplifiers, and we noticed that there were some real differences between the 2. So with the HXDA, we were able to bridge those differences and offer a mod or a switch in different sections of the amplifier where you can go from one characteristic to the other. The amp is essentially a 2-channel amp like a vintage English amplifier, but it's internally bridged. Does have a master volume, and again, when the master volume is all the way up, it's out of the circuit. The key to the hand-wired series of amplifiers is a transformer called a Cinemag transformer. And when we got these vintage amplifiers, and we noticed that the real key to the sound of that amplifier was the transformer. And we sent it out to a couple of different places to have it duplicated, and we realized they weren't even close. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, Paul is, when it comes to tone, he will go to the ends of the earth, to resolve a tone issue. It's amazing what Paul will do. And he sought out a company called Cinemag, and basically what they do is they build inline transformers for recording consoles. So this was, they had the ability to take the transformer and measure it in ways that, and take the time that other people hadn't done. We got those transformers. The first thing they said is, boy, these are junk. But that's the key to guitars. I mean, guitars, a lot of the stuff that is the holy grail from a spec standpoint, if an engineer looks at it, he goes, well, man, that, you know, but that's what makes a guitar sound so good. That's why everybody prefers analog and tubes, because the limited bandwidth really hits a sweet spot on guitars. And the same is true with amplifiers and, in this case, transformers. So they reluctantly built us these transformers, and that is really the unique part of all of PRS amplifiers that carry this transformer. It creates a vintage style amplifier that sags like an old amplifier and reacts the way an old amplifier acts. Now, on the 2-channel H here, we use a proprietary transformer made by Heyboer. But a modern player has different needs. If he's doing drop tuning and things such as that, he needs tight low end that gives him the definition that he needs. So we've offered that. With our cabinets, we have Pine 212 cabinets with vintage 30s. It's a real nice traditional sound. We also have what we call our 212 Bigmouth Cabinet, which is a wider, deeper cabinet that also utilizes vintage 30s, but it's 180 degrees the opposite of the other cabinet. It drops out all the mids, boosts your highs, boosts your low end. You can dial the mids in on your amplifier if you need to, but it just gives you options. So the point of this is to really talk about PRS. When we enter the amp business, we do it the same way we do with guitars. And the thing that I really love about our company is that we design the product to be the best it can be, and we charge accordingly. We do not find ways to cheapen it. We don't cut corners. We don't, you know, we're not satisfied with anything less than what we feel is the best amplifier out there. There's a lot of great amplifiers out there, and we have to create our own niche, and that's what we're trying to do. The guys at Wildwood really support our amplifier efforts, and they can answer your questions. We also have the custom amp design division where we can create whatever it is you're looking for based on our platforms. We can tailor those to meet your needs. So what I'd like to encourage with this video is to take your guitar, whether it be a Fender, Gibson, PRS, Mosrite. The thing about PRS as a company is we're a company of musicians, and you can't be a musician and not love a Fender Tele. It just, you can't. We appreciate quality, and there's a lot of quality in the market today, and we have to work very hard to create our niche. And we feel like we're doing that, and we'd love for you to stop by and check out an amplifier and let the guys answer your questions. And let us know what you like, what you don't like. Thanks. Oh, I think I'll play.